The silence inside the Obsidian Room,
Sweetie,
Manhattan's
okay.
most exclusive restaurant, was absolute. A fork clattering onto a plate would have sounded like a gunshot. Everyone was staring at Table 1, the table belonging to Arthur Penhaligon, the ruthless CEO of Apex Global. His 7-year-old daughter was screaming, a high-pitched, terrifying sound that had paralyzed the entire staff. Nannies had quit, psychologists had failed, and his fiancée was currently trying to drag the child out by her arm. Then a waitress with frayed sneakers and a stain on her apron stepped forward. She didn't yell. She didn't beg. She did one thing that made the billionaire freeze in his tracks and changed history. But no one knew that this waitress was hiding a secret that could destroy them all. The dinner rush at the Obsidian Room was a choreographed dance of high anxiety and higher stakes. For Nora, it was just another night of dodging elbows, balancing scalding plates of sea bass, and pretending she didn't hear the condescending remarks from the city's elite. Nora adjusted her apron, hiding the fraying hem. She needed this shift. Her landlord, Mr. Henderson, had made it clear. Rent by Friday, or she and her sick mother were on the street. "Table 1 is incoming," the floor manager, Gillette, hissed, wiping sweat from his forehead. "Look sharp. It's Penhaligon." The atmosphere in "Up! You are embarrassing Arthur!" Lily screamed louder, kicking out. Her heel connected with Isabella's shin. "You little brat!" Isabella gasped, or safe in a little tent. Lily crawled forward. The entire restaurant watched, breathless. Arthur Penhaligon stood frozen, his mouth slightly open. Lily reached out and lifted the corner of the napkin. Nora looked at her. In a voice so soft only Lily could hear, she whispered, "The world is too loud sometimes. Here, after we eat." The rest of the meal passed in a blur for Arthur. He couldn't stop watching Lily. Usually after an episode, Lily would be catatonic for days. She would refuse to eat, refuse to sleep. But tonight, she was eating her pasta. She even pointed at the chandelier and whispered something to her doll. It was a miracle. In the kitchen, Nora was hyperventilating her to leave it. Her reality, her sick mother, the eviction notice, told her to take it. She took the check. "Thank you, sir," Nora said. She looked at Lily. "Bye, Lily. Remember the tent." Lily looked up and gave a tiny, shy wave. As Nora walked away, she felt Isabella's eyes burning holes into her back. She knew, with a sinking feeling, that $5,000 wasn't just a tip. It was a declaration of war. The next morning, Nora's world fell apart before the driver even arrived. She woke up in her cramped apartment in Queens to the sound of pounding on the door. It was Mr. Henderson. "I'm sorry, Nora," the landlord said, looking genuinely apologetic as he handed her a paper. "I have to evict you, effective immediately. You have 24 hours. "What?" Nora gripped the doorframe. "I have the money. I got a huge tip last night. I can pay you right now." "It's not the rent," Henderson said, lowering his voice. "I got a call this morning from the city health inspector and the building authority. They found violations in your unit specifically. They threatened to condemn my whole building if you aren't out. They knew your name, Nora. Someone powerful wants you on the street." Nora felt the blood drain from her face. Isabella. It had to be. The woman had resources, and she was petty. "I understand," Nora whispered. She closed the door and leaned against it, sliding down until she hit the floor. Her mother coughed from the bedroom. They had nowhere to go. No home. And if Isabella was this vindictive, Nora probably wouldn't have a job at the restaurant by noon either. Her phone buzzed. It was a text from Gillette. "Don't come in. You're fired. And don't use me as a reference." Tears pricked her eyes. She was being erased. She looked at the clock. 9:45 a.m. Arthur Penhaligon had said his driver would be there at 10 a.m. It was a job interview. But now it was a lifeline. If she didn't get that job, she and her mother would be homeless by nightfall. Nora wiped her face. She put on her best blouse, a simple white button-down, and packed her mother's medication into a bag. "Mum," she called out, "I'm going out. I might have found us a new place." She stepped out onto the curb in front of her building just as a black Rolls-Royce Phantom pulled up. The window rolled down. "Miss Kingsley?" the driver asked. "Yes," Nora said, clutching her bag. "Mr. Penhaligon is waiting." Nora got in. As the car pulled away, she saw a black SUV parked down the street. The man inside was watching her, speaking into a phone. She wasn't just walking into a job. She was walking into a snake pit. But for her mother, and for that little girl who just wanted a quiet place to hide, Nora was ready to bite back. The Penhaligon estate, known as Blackwood, wasn't a home. It was a fortress disguised as a French chateau. As the Rolls-Royce crunched over the gravel driveway, Nora stared up at the limestone facade. It was beautiful, cold and imposing, much like the man who owned it. Nora gripped her handbag tight. Inside was her entire life, her ID, her mother's medication, and the void where her house keys used to be. The text from her landlord still burned in her mind. Evicted. If she failed this interview, she wasn't just going back to being a waitress. She was going back to a homeless shelter. The butler, a man named Mr. Calloway, who looked like he had been starched along with his collar, opened the car door. "Follow me, Miss Kingsley. Mr. Penhaligon is in the library. You are late." The driver picked me up at 10, Nora stammered. "Mr. Penhaligon's time is currency. Do not waste it." Calloway led her through hallways lined with portraits of stern-looking ancestors. The house was dead silent. No music, no laughter, no sound of a child playing. It felt like a museum where touching the glass was punishable by law. They arrived at double mahogany doors. Calloway pushed them open. The library was massive, filled with books that looked like they had never been opened. In the center of the room sat Arthur Penhaligon behind a desk the size of a small car. But he wasn't alone. Isabella was there, perched on a leather sofa like a predatory bird, sipping an espresso. And standing in a rigid line in front of the desk were 3 women. They were immaculate, wearing crisp navy suits, hair pulled back in tight buns, holding leather folios. They looked like soldiers. Nora looked down at her simple white blouse and black slacks. She felt woefully underqualified. "Ah, the miracle worker arrives," Isabella drawled, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "Arthur, are we really doing this? These women have PhDs in child psychology. She serves appetizers." Arthur ignored Isabella. He looked at Nora. "Take a place in line, Miss Kingsley." Nora stepped up beside the third woman, a severe-looking lady who smelled of antiseptic. "This is a practical interview," Arthur said, standing up. He looked exhausted, the dark circles under his eyes more pronounced than the night before. "Lily is currently in the solarium. She has refused to come out for breakfast. She has refused to get dressed. In 2 hours, the board of directors is coming here for a luncheon. Lily must be presentable." He pointed to the first woman in line. "Miss Gable, you first. You have 10 minutes. Miss Gable nodded confidently. "I have handled tantrums for the royal family of Sweden. This will be simple." She marched out. Arthur waited. He tapped his pen on the desk. 5 minutes later, screaming echoed down the hallway. It was the same terrified shriek from the restaurant. Miss Gable returned, her hair slightly askew, looking flushed. "The child is difficult. She bit me." "Next," Arthur said coldly. The second woman, Miss Halloway, went in. She returned in 3 minutes, shaking her head. "She's throwing porcelain figures. It's unsafe." The third woman, the one smelling of antiseptic, scoffed. "Amateurs." She walked out. She lasted the longest, 8 minutes. But when she came back, she was soaking wet. "She turned the hose on me," the woman spat, wiping water from her glasses. "That child doesn't need a nanny. She needs a boarding school for the criminally insane." Arthur's face hardened. A muscle in his jaw twitched. "Get out. All of you. You will be compensated for your time." As the 3 qualified nannies filed out, muttering about impossible standards. The room fell silent. Arthur looked at Nora. "Your turn." Isabella laughed. "Oh, this I have to see. Go on, waitress, go get bitten. Nora didn't say a word. She set her bag down on a chair. She took off her shoes. What are you doing? Isabella asked, wrinkling her nose. The floors are marble, Nora said calmly. Shoes make a clicking sound, echoes. If she's in a high sensory state, the sound of heels on stone sounds like gunfire to her. You're approaching her like an enemy invasion. I'm going in as a ghost. She walked out of the library in her socks. Arthur stood up. I want to watch. He and Isabella followed Nora quietly down the hall to the solarium. The solarium was a glass-walled room filled with exotic plants. It was humid and bright. In the corner, behind a large fern, Lily was huddled in a ball, clutching a porcelain doll, her breathing ragged. A garden hose was lying nearby, water still dripping onto the floor. Nora didn't approach the fern. She didn't call Lily's name. She walked to the center of the room and sat down on the floor, her back to Lily. She pulled a small notepad and a pen from her pocket. She started drawing. Scratch, scratch, scratch. The rhythmic sound cut through the silence. Lily stopped crying. She listened. Nora tore the page out and folded it. A paper airplane. She threw it, not at Lily, but straight up into the air. It looped and landed on a large monstera leaf. Nora drew another one, folded it, threw it. This one landed closer to the fern. That's it, Isabella whispered from the doorway. She's playing with trash? Shh, Arthur hissed. Lily's head peeked out from behind the fern. She looked at the paper plane near her foot. She reached out and grabbed it. She unfolded it. Inside, Nora had drawn a crude stick figure of a girl fighting a dragon, but the dragon was made of loud noises. Lily looked at Nora's back. Nora hadn't turned around. Nora threw another plane. This one landed right in Lily's lap. Lily unfolded it. It was a drawing of the girl and the stick figure waitress sitting under a giant umbrella, safe from the noise dragon. Lily stood up. She walked over to Nora and sat down behind her, back to back. The hose was because she yelled, Lily whispered. I know, Nora whispered back, still looking forward. Yelling is the worst. I don't want to wear the blue dress, Lily admitted. It scratches my neck. Okay, Nora said. What if we wear the white one? And we can wear it inside out so the tag doesn't touch your skin. Lily paused. Inside out? It's a new fashion trend, Nora lied smoothly. Very exclusive. Lily giggled. A tiny, rusty sound. Okay, Lily said. Nora stood up and offered a hand. Lily took it. They walked past the stunned Arthur and the fuming Isabella. We're going to get dressed now, Nora said to Arthur as she passed. And Mr. Penhaligon. The blue dress is made of synthetic tulle. It's basically sandpaper for a child with SPD. Burn it. Arthur watched them go. He let out a breath he felt like he'd been holding for 5 years. She's manipulating her, Isabella snapped, crossing her arms. She's making Lily dependent on her. It's a classic con. She's the first person Lily hasn't screamed at in a month, Arthur said. She's hired. You can't hire her. Isabella's voice rose, desperate. You don't know anything about her. In fact, I did a background check this morning. Isabella pulled a folded paper from her clutch and slammed it against Arthur's chest. She was evicted this morning, Arthur. She has no address. Her mother is sick and uninsured. She's destitute. She isn't here because she cares about Lily. She's here because she needs a roof over her head. She's a gold digger, just a poor one. Arthur unfolded the paper. He read the eviction notice. He read the financial report. He looked down the hall where Nora and Lily had disappeared. She didn't tell me, Arthur murmured. Of course she didn't. She wants to embed herself in your life and siphon your money. Arthur walked back to the library, his face unreadable. 30 minutes later, Nora returned to the library. Lily was dressed in the white dress, inside out, though Nora had cleverly pinned a sash to hide the seams, and was calmly colouring in a book. She's ready for the luncheon, Nora said. Arthur looked at Nora. He held up the eviction paper. Nora froze. Her face went pale. She looked at Isabella, who was smirking triumphantly. Is this true? Arthur asked. "Are you homeless as of this morning?" Nora swallowed the lump in her throat. She didn't beg. She straightened her spine. "Yes, my landlord evicted us this morning. He said he was pressured by the city, but I suspect he was pressured by someone else." She glanced at Isabella. "But that doesn't change how I treat your daughter, Mr. Penhaligon. I need this job, desperately, which means I will work harder than anyone else you could hire, because I have everything to lose." The room was silent. Isabella waited for the explosion. Arthur hated liars. "You're right," Arthur said slowly. "You do have everything to lose." He tore the eviction notice in half. "The position is live-in. The East Wing has a guest suite. You and your mother can move in today. I'll send a truck for your belongings." Isabella dropped her espresso cup. It shattered on the floor. "Arthur, you can't be serious. You're moving her mother in too?" "Lily needs stability," Arthur said, turning his back on Isabella. "And Nora needs a home. It's a transaction." "But Nora," he turned back to the waitress, his eyes steel. "This is a trial. You have 1 week. If Lily has a meltdown, if you lie to me again, or if I sense you are using my daughter for financial gain, you will be out on the street, and I will make sure you never work in this city again." Nora nodded, her heart pounding against her ribs. Understood. She had a home, but she had also just walked into a cage with a lioness who wanted her dead. The first 3 days at Blackwood Manor were a masterclass in psychological warfare. Nora and her mother, Elena, who was frail but sharp-witted, were installed in the East Wing. It was more luxury than they had ever known. But Nora didn't have time to enjoy the Egyptian cotton sheets. She was too busy acting as a human shield for a 7-year-old girl. Isabella didn't scream or shout. Her attacks were subtle. She was a saboteur. On Tuesday, Nora found Lily's noise-cancelling headphones in the dishwasher, ruined. Isabella claimed the maid made a mistake. On Wednesday, the kitchen forgot Lily's dietary restrictions and served a sauce loaded with texture-heavy mushrooms, triggering a gagging fit that Nora barely managed to de-escalate before Arthur saw. But Nora fought back. She didn't complain to Arthur. She simply outmaneuvered Isabella. When the headphones broke, Nora built a quiet fort out of pillows in the closet. When the food was wrong, Nora taught Lily how to inspect her food like a scientist, turning the anxiety into a game. Lily was blossoming. She started making eye contact. She laughed, a real belly laugh, when Nora slipped on a polished floor in her socks. Arthur noticed. He was spending more time at home, watching from the doorway as Nora and Lily engaged in silent disco sessions in the living room. The ice around his heart was melting, and that terrified Isabella more than anything. The climax of the week was the Apex Charity Gala. It was to be held in the grand ballroom of the estate on Saturday night. 500 of the city's elite, press, and shareholders. Arthur made it clear. Lily had to make an appearance. It was crucial for his image as a family man after the restaurant incident. "This is the night," Nora told Lily on Saturday morning. "We're going to practice. Walk in, wave, smile, accept 1 flower, and then we escape to the Bat Cave." "And I can wear my sensory cape?" Lily asked. "The velvet wrap?" "Yes," Nora promised. The dress for the evening had been custom-made. It was a soft, seamless silk in pale blue, designed by Nora and a local seamstress she trusted, paid for by Arthur. It was perfect. At 5 p.m., 2 hours before the guests arrived, Nora went to the nursery to help Lily dress. She opened the wardrobe. The blue silk dress was gone. In its place hung a stiff, crinoline-heavy pink dress covered in scratchy sequins and tight elastic. Panic flared in Nora's chest. She checked the drawers. "Nothing." "Nora?" Lily asked, sensing the tension. "Where is my soft dress?" "Just a second, sweetie." Nora stormed out into the hallway and nearly collided with Isabella. Isabella was wearing a stunning crimson gown and a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Where is it?" Nora demanded, keeping her voice low. "Where is what, dear?" "Lily's dress, the silk one." "Oh, that rag?" Isabella laughed lightly. "I had it sent to the cleaners. It looked wrinkled. I replaced it with something more appropriate. A Penhaligon doesn't wear homemade clothes. That pink dress is a Dior." "That pink dress is torture for her," Nora hissed. "The sequins will feel like needles. She will have a meltdown in 5 minutes." "Then you better make sure she doesn't," Isabella whispered, stepping closer. Her perfume was overpowering, a heavy, musky floral scent that made even Nora's nose itch. Because if she screams tonight, in front of the investors, Arthur will blame you. He'll see that you can't control her when it matters, and you'll be packing your bags tonight. Isabella turned and floated away. Nora checked her watch. 1 hour until the gala. No time to retrieve the dress. No time to make a new one. She went back into the room. Lily was staring at the pink dress with terror. "I can't wear it," Lily whimpered. "It hurts looking at it." Nora looked around the room. Desperate. She needed soft fabric, seamless, breathable. Her eyes landed on Arthur's closet door, which connected to the nursery suite. It was a risk, a huge one. "Lily, wait here." Nora slipped into Arthur's dressing room. It smelled of cedar and expensive cologne. She frantically rifled through the racks. Suits, stiff shirts, nothing soft enough. Then she saw it. A stack of high-quality cashmere sweaters and a row of pure silk pocket squares. Nora grabbed a pair of scissors from the sewing kit she kept in her apron. She took a large, pristine white cashmere sweater, clearly never worn, and a handful of blue silk handkerchiefs. "Nora!" She spun around. Arthur was standing in the doorway, wrapped in a towel, having just stepped out of the shower. He looked at the scissors, the sweater, and Nora. "What on earth are you doing?" he demanded. "Is that my cashmere?" "I need this," Nora said, her voice shaking but determined. "Isabella took Lily's dress. She replaced it with sequins. If Lily wears sequins, she will scream. If she wears this cashmere, she'll be safe." "You are cutting up a $2,000 sweater?" Arthur asked, incredulous. "I'd cut up the Mona Lisa if it kept her calm," Nora snapped. "Charge me for it." She ran past him back to the nursery. Arthur stood there, stunned. No one spoke to him like that. Nora worked like a magician. She cut the arms off the sweater to make a sleeveless tunic. She used the silk handkerchiefs to create a soft, flowing sash that tied the waist, covering the rough edges. It wasn't Dior. It was improved, deconstructed chic. "Put it on," Nora told Lily. "It's a cloud dress." Lily touched the cashmere. She smiled. At 7 p.m., the ballroom was packed. The music was loud, but Nora had given Lily discreet earplugs that looked like pearl earrings. Arthur stood at the bottom of the grand staircase, waiting. He looked nervous. Isabella was beside him, clutching his arm, waiting for the disaster. "I really don't think she's up for it, Arthur," Isabella murmured loudly enough for the nearby investors to hear. "That new nanny is incompetent." Then the music swelled. Nora appeared at the top of the stairs, holding Lily's hand. Lily wasn't screaming. She wasn't scratching. She was walking down the stairs in a white cashmere tunic with a blue silk sash, looking like a winter angel. She looked comfortable. Arthur looked up. He recognized his sweater. He recognized the silk from his pocket squares. A smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. Lily reached the bottom. She walked right up to the board chairman, curtsied, and said softly, "Welcome to our home." The room melted. The investors cooed. It was a triumph. Isabella looked like she had swallowed a lemon. Later that night, after Lily was asleep, Nora was in the kitchen making tea. She was exhausted. Arthur walked in. He was still in his tuxedo, tie undone. "The sweater will be deducted from your paycheck," he said, but his voice was warm. "Fair enough," Nora said, leaning against the counter. "Why didn't you tell me Isabella took the dress?" "Would you have believed me?" Nora asked. "Or would it have looked like the nanny blaming the fiancé?" Arthur was silent. He poured himself a glass of water. You saw the problem, and you solved it. You didn't complain. I respect that. He moved closer. The air between them charged with a sudden, unexpected tension. You saved the night, Nora. I did it for Lily. I know. Just then, a piercing shriek echoed from the east wing. It wasn't Lily. Nora dropped her mug. It shattered. "Mum," she whispered. She ran. Arthur followed. They burst into the guest suite. Nora's mother, Elena, was on the floor, gasping for air, clutching her chest. Her face was blue. "Mum!" Nora slid to her knees, checking her pulse. It was erratic. She's having a reaction. "Where is her medication? I put it right here on the nightstand." The nightstand was empty. The bottle of heart pills was gone. "I took them," Elena gasped. "But they didn't work." Nora grabbed the empty water glass next to the bed. She sniffed it. It smelled faint but distinct. Bitter almond. And underneath that, the heavy, musky, floral scent of Isabella's perfume. Arthur was already on his phone. "Get the paramedic unit in here, now!" Nora looked up at Arthur, tears streaming down her face. Someone switched her pills or tampered with her water. Arthur looked at the nightstand. He saw a smudge of red lipstick on the rim of the water glass, a shade of crimson he had seen earlier that evening. On Isabella. The war had just turned from psychological to physical, and Nora realized with chilling clarity, Isabella wasn't just trying to get her fired. She was trying to eliminate the competition permanently. The VIP wing of St. Jude's Hospital was quiet, smelling of antiseptic and expensive lilies. Arthur Penhaligon sat in a plastic chair outside room 402, his head in his hands. Inside, Nora sat by the bed, holding the pale hand of her mother, Martha. In the chaos of the ambulance, the paramedics had corrected her name on the chart. It was Martha, not Elena, as the confused intake nurse had written. The doctors had pumped her stomach. It was a severe reaction to a concentrated dose of digitalis, a heart medication, but not the one Martha was prescribed. "She's stable," Dr. Sterling said, stepping out of the room. He looked grave. "But Mr. Penhaligon, this wasn't an accident. The dosage in her system was 5 times the lethal limit for her weight. If Nora hadn't recognized the signs immediately—" "She was poisoned," Arthur finished, his voice like crushed gravel. "It's a police matter now," Dr. Sterling said. Arthur stood up. He walked into the room. Nora looked up, her eyes red-rimmed, her face stripped of all color. She looked small, defeated. "I have to leave," Nora whispered. "I can't stay at Blackwood. It's too dangerous. She came for my mother, Arthur. Next time it will be me. Or worse, Lily." "You are not leaving," Arthur said. The command hung in the air. "If you leave, she wins. And if you leave, I lose the only person who has made my daughter smile in 3 years. She almost killed my mother." Nora's voice cracked, rising in hysteria. "This isn't a job anymore. It's a death trap." Arthur walked over and knelt beside her chair, a position of submission a billionaire never took. "I sent the glass to the lab, and I sent the security footage from the hallway to my private security team, not the house staff. I don't trust anyone at the manor right now, except you." His phone buzzed. He looked at the screen. His expression turned from worried to murderous. "What is it?" Nora asked. Arthur showed her the image. It was a high-resolution, still from the hallway camera outside the guest suite. It showed a figure slipping into the room at 7:45 p.m. The figure was wearing a maid's uniform, but the shoes were wrong. They were red-soled stilettos. Isabella. "She didn't even bother to change her shoes," Arthur whispered. "She thinks she's untouchable." "She is untouchable," Nora said bitterly. "Her father is a senator. You're a billionaire. People like her don't go to jail. They go to spas in Switzerland until the news cycle forgets." "Not this time," Arthur vowed. "But I need you to trust me. I need you to go back to the house tonight." "Are you crazy?" "I need you to act like you're defeated," Arthur said, his eyes burning with a cold intelligence. "Pack your bags. Cry. Let her see you broken. If she thinks you're leaving, she'll get sloppy. She'll try to make her final move to secure the engagement ring." Nora looked at her sleeping mother. Then she looked at Arthur. "And Lily?" "Lily goes with me to the office tomorrow. I'm not letting her out of my sight. But I need you at the house to find the proof. Isabella keeps a ledger. She's obsessive about money. If she paid your landlord to evict you, if she bought the digitalis, the receipt is in her suite. You want me to break into Isabella Vance's room?" "I want you to destroy her," Arthur said. The next morning, the performance began. Nora returned to Blackwood Manor, eyes puffy, carrying boxes. She loudly told Mr. Calloway she was quitting. Isabella was on the patio, eating a grapefruit. She watched Nora load the trunk of a taxi with a smirk that was pure venom. "Leaving so soon?" Isabella called out. "I hope your mother recovers. Old hearts are so fragile." Nora gritted her teeth. She had to sell it. "You win, Isabella. I can't fight you. I just want my family to be safe." "Smart girl," Isabella purred. "Go back to serving tables. It's what you were born for." Nora got into the taxi, but she didn't leave. As soon as the taxi rounded the bend of the long driveway, she ducked down. The driver, a member of Arthur's security team, circled back and drove to the service entrance around the rear of the estate. Nora slipped back into the house through the scullery, dressed in black tech wear Arthur had provided. She was now a ghost in the house she supposedly just left. Arthur had given her the master key code. Nora waited until Isabella left for her Pilates session at 11 a.m. Then she entered the Lion's Den, Isabella's suite in the West Wing. The room was a shrine to vanity, mirrors everywhere. Nora started searching. Drawers, closets, under the mattress, nothing. She felt a panic rising. Isabella would be back in an hour. Nora paused. She closed her eyes. She used her waitress skills, memory and observation. She thought back to every time she had seen Isabella. The woman was always on her phone, or writing in a small, leather-bound planner she kept in her Hermès bag, but she didn't take the bag to Pilates. Nora looked at the walk-in closet. There, on the top shelf, was a row of designer bags. Nora grabbed the Birkin bag Isabella had used yesterday. She dug through it. Lipstick, compact, breath mints, and a small, false bottom in the lining. Nora's fingers brushed against paper. She pulled it out. It wasn't a diary. It was a passport. But the name wasn't Isabella Vance. It was Maggie O'Connell. And underneath the passport was a folded letter. It was from a law firm in the Cayman Islands. "Miss O'Connell, the transfer of funds from the Penhaligon charity account is complete. The $4 million has been laundered, as requested. We await your arrival on Monday." Nora's breath hitched. Isabella wasn't just a jealous fiancé. She was a con artist, a professional grifter who had likely invented her senator's daughter backstory or stolen the identity. She wasn't trying to marry Arthur for status. She was trying to empty his accounts and vanish. And Monday was 2 days away. Nora pulled out her phone to take a picture. Click, the sound of a door opening downstairs froze her blood. "I forgot my yoga mat," Isabella's voice echoed up the stairs. Nora was trapped. The closet had no other exit. She heard the footsteps coming closer, the click-clack of heels on the hardwood. Nora looked up. The ventilation shaft. It was narrow, dusty, and high. But Nora had spent years climbing unstable shelving units in pantry rooms. She kicked off her shoes, stepped on the vanity, and hauled herself up, prying the grate loose. She shimmied inside and pulled the grate back into place, just as the bedroom door swung open. Through the slats, she watched Isabella walk in. Isabella went straight to the closet. She reached for the Birkin bag. She checked the false bottom. Isabella froze. She knew. Isabella pulled out her phone. She didn't call the police. She dialed a number. "It's me," Isabella hissed. "The waitress found the stash. I don't know how, but the papers are moved. We have to accelerate the timeline. Forget the gala. Grab the girl today. I'm burning the house down." Nora, lying in the dust of the vent. Clamped her hand over her mouth. Isabella wasn't going to run. She was going to kidnap Lily for ransom and burn Blackwood Manor to the ground to cover her tracks. Nora had to move. She couldn't call Arthur. The vents were thick metal, blocking her signal. She had to get out and get to Lily. She crawled through the ductwork, the metal scraping her knees raw. She navigated by memory of the house layout, eventually kicking out a vent in the laundry room in the basement. She tumbled out, covered in soot, and sprinted for the garage. The security car was gone. Isabella must have seen it. Nora saw a gardener's truck. The keys were in the ignition. She didn't hesitate. She stole the truck, peeling out of the driveway, gravel spraying everywhere. She called Arthur as she sped down the highway towards the Apex Tower. "Arthur, it's a setup. Isabella is Maggie O'Connell, a con artist. She's coming for Lily now. She's going to burn the house." "I have Lily," Arthur said, his voice calm but tight. "We are in my office on the 40th floor. Security is on high alert. Isabella can't get in here." "You don't understand," Nora screamed over the roar of the engine. "She's not coming through the front door. She has an accomplice. Who is your head of security?" "Garen. He's been with me for 10 years. Is he the one who drove the SUV? The one who watched me get evicted?" There was a silence on the line. "Arthur?" "Garen is in the room with us," Arthur whispered. The line went dead. At the Apex Tower, the nightmare unfolded in seconds. Arthur turned to Garen, a mountain of a man standing by the door. "Garen, hand me your radio." Garen didn't move. He smiled, a cold, mercenary smile. "Sorry, boss. The retirement package Maggie offered me was just too good." Garen drew a silenced pistol. "Get up. You and the brat. We're going to the roof. The helicopter is waiting." "Don't touch her," Arthur roared, stepping in front of Lily. "Move and I shoot you in the leg," Garen said casually. "The girl is the ticket. You're just excess baggage." Lily began to whimper. She was covering her ears, rocking. The stress was triggering a massive episode. "Shut that kid up," Garen snapped. Nora reached the Apex Tower. The lobby was in chaos. The fire alarm was blaring, Isabella's distraction. People were streaming out. Nora pushed against the tide, fighting her way to the security desk. "I need to get to the 40th floor. Penhaligon is in trouble." "Elevators are locked down, lady," the guard yelled. Nora looked at the digital schematics on the wall. The elevators were down. The stairs were clogged with people. But there was a service lift, the dumbwaiter system used for catering and mail. It was small, dangerous, and manual. Nora ran to the loading bay. She found the service shaft. It was a vertical tunnel of grease and darkness. She grabbed the cables. She didn't have the strength to pull herself up 40 floors, but she knew the formula. Physics, counterweight. She scanned the loading dock. She saw a pallet of heavy printer paper. She hooked the counter cable to the pallet and shoved it off the ledge into the basement pit. The pallet plummeted. Nora grabbed the rising cable and held on for dear life. She shot up the shaft like a rocket, flying past floor numbers. 10, 20, 30. She used her feet to break against the walls as she neared 40, the friction burning through her sneaker soles. She pried the doors open and rolled out onto the 40th floor plush carpet, gasping for air. The floor was empty. The staff had evacuated. She heard voices in the CEO's office. Nora crept forward. She peered through the frosted glass. Garen had Arthur on his knees. Isabella, who had evidently arrived via the private helipad, was there too, holding a syringe. "Just put her to sleep, Garen," Isabella ordered. "She's screaming too much." Garen moved toward Lily. Nora looked around. She had no weapon. She was a waitress. She saw the office bar, a high-end espresso machine, a bottle of high-proof brandy, and a lighter on Arthur's desk. Waitress skills, flambe. Nora grabbed the brandy and a heavy crystal ashtray. She kicked the door open. "Hey, Maggie!" Nora yelled. Isabella spun around. "You!" Garen turned his gun toward Nora. Nora threw the bottle of brandy into the air, right over Garen's head. As he tracked the bottle, distracted, she threw the heavy crystal ashtray with picture-perfect aim. It smashed the bottle in midair, showering Garin in high-proof alcohol. "Now, Lily, the button!" Nora screamed. Lily, who was hiding under the desk near the panic button Arthur had shown her once, slammed her fist on it. The panic button didn't call the police. Lines were cut. It activated the office's emergency lockdown measures, specifically the halon gas fire suppression system and the blast shutters. But before the gas hit, sparks from Garen's muzzle flash, as he fired blindly, ignited the alcohol soaking his suit. Garen burst into flames. He screamed, dropping the gun, flailing. Isabella lunged for the gun. Nora tackled her. They crashed into the glass coffee table. Isabella was stronger, fueled by rage. She pinned Nora down, hands around Nora's throat. "Are you miserable little servant?" Isabella shrieked. "I had it all. I was going to be a queen." Nora's vision blurred. She clawed at Isabella's face. Suddenly a small figure appeared behind Isabella. It was Lily. Lily held the heavy brass telescope from her father's desk. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She swung it with all her might. Clang! The telescope connected with the back of Isabella's head. Isabella's eyes rolled back. She slumped forward, unconscious, on top of Nora. Nora shoved the woman off and gasped for air. Arthur was there in a second, pulling Nora up, checking her neck. "Nora, are you okay?" "I'm okay," Nora wheezed. They looked at Lily. The little girl dropped the telescope. She looked at her hands, shaking. Nora crawled over and pulled Lily into her arms. She didn't say, "Good job." She didn't say, "Don't be scared." She pulled the linen napkin from her pocket, the one she always kept, and draped it over both of their heads. "Tent time," Nora whispered. Under the napkin, amidst the chaos of a burning hitman, who was now being extinguished by the sprinklers, and the unconscious con artist, Lily leaned her head against Nora's chest and sobbed. "It's over," Arthur said, wrapping his arms around the two women who had saved his life. "It's finally over." The trial of Isabella Vance, a.k.a. Maggie O'Connell, and her accomplice Garen was the media event of the decade. The evidence Nora had secured from the false bottom bag, combined with the testimony of Mr. Henderson, who flipped immediately when faced with jail time, was damning. Isabella was sentenced to 25 years for fraud, attempted kidnapping, and attempted murder. But Nora didn't attend the sentencing. She was busy packing. It had been 2 months since the attack at the tower. Martha had fully recovered and was currently in the garden with Lily, planting tulips. Nora folded her last waitress uniform and placed it in the box. She felt a presence in the doorway. It was Arthur. "Calloway tells me you ordered a moving truck," Arthur said. He was leaning against the doorframe, looking more relaxed than he had in years. He wasn't wearing a tie. "It's time, Arthur," Nora said, not looking at him. "The danger is gone. You don't need a bodyguard anymore, and you can hire a real governess for Lily now. One with a degree, not a GED. Is that what you think you are? Just a bodyguard?" "I was a transaction," Nora said, her voice trembling slightly. "You needed stability. I needed a home. The contract is done." "The contract was for a week," Arthur pointed out. "You've been here 3 months. I overstayed my welcome." Nora picked up the box. "I'm going to go back to Queen's. I'm going to finish my nursing degree. It's for the best." She tried to walk past him. Arthur blocked her path. "I fired the board of directors," he said randomly. Nora paused. "What?" "The ones who cared about the image. The ones who judged Lily. I fired them. I'm taking the company private. I want to spend my time on things that matter." He took the box from Nora's hands and set it on the floor. "You aren't a waitress, Nora. You aren't a nanny. You are the only person who saw my daughter as a human being and not a broken object. You are the only person who saw me as a man, not a bank account." He reached into his pocket. Nora's heart hammered. Was he offering her money? A severance package? He pulled out a piece of paper. It was a drawing. It was the drawing Lily had made in the solarium on that first day. The stick-figure girl and the stick-figure waitress under the umbrella, safe from the dragon. But Lily had added something new. A third stick figure. A tall man holding the umbrella handle. Lily drew this morning, Arthur said softly. She calls it the family. Tears spilled over Nora's lashes. Arthur, I can't. People will talk. They'll say I'm just another gold digger like Isabella. They'll say the waitress seduced the billionaire. Let them talk, Arthur said, stepping closer. He cupped her face in his hands. His thumbs brushed away her tears. Let them talk while we live. I don't care about the world, Nora. I care about the fact that this house was a tomb before you walked into it. And if you leave, the lights go out again. I don't want the lights to go out, Nora whispered. Arthur lowered his head and kissed her. It wasn't a movie kiss. It was desperate, real, and full of a promise that went beyond contracts. It was a kiss that tasted of second chances. Don't go, he murmured against her lips. Okay, she breathed. I'll stay. 5 years later. The headline on Forbes magazine read, The New Legacy, How Arthur and Nora Penhaligon Changed Autism Advocacy. But Nora didn't care about the magazine. She was standing on the deck of the summer house in the Hamptons. The door opened and a 12-year-old girl walked out. Lily. She was wearing headphones, but she was smiling. She held her acceptance letter in her hand. I got into the STEM program, Mum, Lily said. Nora, who had legally adopted Lily 3 years ago, beamed. I knew you would. You're a genius with codes. Dad is crying in the kitchen, Lily noted dryly. He's trying to hide it, but he's making pancakes and sniffing. Nora laughed. She walked into the kitchen. Arthur was indeed flipping pancakes, wiping his eyes with a dish towel. Martha was sitting at the counter, stealing blueberries, looking healthy and happy. Arthur saw Nora and smiled. It was a smile of pure contentment. She got in, Arthur said. She did, Nora replied, wrapping her arms around his waist. You know, Arthur said, kissing her forehead, I still owe you for that cashmere sweater. Put it on my tab, Nora winked. They had built a life not on perfection, but on understanding. They learned that love wasn't about shouting the loudest. It was about sitting together in the quiet, under the napkin, until the world felt safe again. And in the end, the waitress didn't just serve the billionaire. She saved him. And that is the story of how one act of kindness and a little bit of waitress grit took down a criminal empire and built a family. It just goes to show, never underestimate the person serving your coffee. They might just be the strongest person in the room. If you loved this story of karma, romance, and justice, please smash that like button. It really helps the channel. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you never miss a new story. What did you think of Isabella's punishment? Did she get what she deserved? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.